Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, your host, as always, Andrew O'Hara, and this is going to be a fun episode. We have a big announcement to make, and I also have one of my favorite guests. They're all my favorite guests, but this week I have joining me Brian Tong, and I don't mean to give you like any inflated ego, Brian, but I'm pretty sure the last time you were on, it was like the top rated episode for the year. And I don't know if it was because, it was you guesting, people were hyped, or maybe it was the topics we covered, but I'll give you the credit. We'll say it was you. So let's boost this one too.
I will take that, Andrew. That's a lot to live up to, but let's just see what happens.
Let's see. Well, before we get into all the things, so how have you been? It's been a hot second since you've been on the show. I'm pretty sure you just hang outside of Apple Park trying to hitch rides on golf carts. That's what I'm pretty sure you do just around the clock.
It's actually been a couple years, and I have not been able to hitch on that golf cart again.
Oh,
I'm trying. I am trying to penetrate the outer force field, defensive walls of Apple and get back inside. But it's been fun. Feel very honestly, we've known each other for years now, and we've seen each other do this, and it's a blessing to be able to just talk about tech. And sure, every company has their ebbs and flows, and maybe Apple isn't in their prime innovative era anymore. I kind of describe them as more as like they're such a big, large moving, they're like a barge. They're like a sail barge now, right? They can't be fluid. When they take change now, it takes time to move that ship. They still are innovative, but it's not their peak level of innovation. I think some people want to hold them to that. I think the tech world and the tech industry has completely changed. There's a lot more competition that is, quite honestly, needs to be more nimble and do things. And you kind of wish that Apple still had some of that in them, and they kind of do here and there. I think the iPhone Air might be my best example. Like, hey, they still have something in there. So we're just blessed and lucky to cover this, and it's fun. And tech in general, I love it. So I'm happy to be here, bro.
yeah, you just did the whole thing CES again, right? You were kind of like co-hosting CES with Justine.
Yeah, that is one of the best gigs ever. I think what I try and equate things to is when you were a kid and you wanted to do something, and I remember always wanting to go to CES when I was like in junior high and high school. And then it's kind of crazy, like the fact that I get to like represent for, I guess, part of the tech community and host the freaking show. That's incredible. So and then to see everyone there, and from the upstarts who are trying to make it, make something happen at Eureka Park all the way to the big floor. Dude, I think every year you take away something, whether it's a trend or how companies are moving, specifically in the smart home space. I think the smart home space was the highlight of CES this year, quite honestly. But there's always something new, emerging, and exciting. And again, we are lucky to do it, bro.
We are, but it comes with like the same downsides, because every time that I go, I feel like I am busier and busier. And like same with you, like literally our only time to say hi to each other was while I think at the Roborock booth, and we were both waiting for them to do the dancing robot demo, and we each had like 30 seconds to say, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" And then it's up, let's film and get this, and that was it. That was like our whole time at CES.
Well, I think that what that means is, which I'm assuming we're both going to be at this next Apple experience.
Yeah, not an event.
That's when we'll actually have some time to hopefully talk a little bit and catch up. But CS is a zoo, bro.
Yeah, we don't even have time to get into that, because it sounds like, I guess that is kind of like our first topic. So we'll come back to that. Either way, thank you for having on. I want to talk about the big announcement that I had kind of teased for this episode. This has been tossed around for literally, I'm pretty sure, at least 2 years now, back to when, Steven was hosting this with me. But we had talked about whether or not we should change the name of the podcast, because Apple, of course, has ditched HomeKit, publicly. It is now Apple Home. So the question was like, okay, do we get rid of HomeKit as well? Do we switch it to Apple Home Insider or something else? And I think, because this is episode 299, next episode, number 300, we're going to do it. We're ripping the Band-Aid off. HomeKit Insider is now becoming Smart Home Insider. little bit more broad to cover Matter and the entire smart home space, but still with that Apple slant to it. The new branding, the new name, new logo, everything is going to be kicking off with episode 300. So next week's episode, but nothing should change from everyone's end, like listening or watching, like the same YouTube channel. We're just going to be able to update on the back end, and it'll be updated. The same like back history of all the episodes will be there, but just with a fresh new coat of paint and a new name on it. So I'm pretty excited.
I'm happy to be here to help launch that name, and like you said, smart home, it makes sense. I mean, it is. You're going to be able to cover just a lot more and a lot of things that matter. Sorry, I didn't.
I mean,
I should not have done that. So dumb.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it, though. They couldn't have done that name without realizing that joke was going to be made 8,000 times. I'm pretty sure half of them just on this podcast. But yeah, I can't believe that we've been doing this for 300 episodes, which is
incredible.
Nuts.
That's a testament to you guys and your dedication. It's really, doing something that long, it takes a lot of grit and grind, and you got to love it. So that just means that you enjoy doing it. So that's awesome.
I love the smart home stuff. Like, I mean, we talk about it every single week. I live it. We got so much smart tech in this house that we're always testing and putting their paces with the family, as well as, actual like technical testing and everything. So yeah, it's something that I very much love. It's something that I think is just getting more popular as Apple is going to be kind of taking this a little bit more seriously as rumors kind of are pointing towards. Format of the show, I think we're going to keep it basically still the same. So I'm going to continue to have great guests on, like you, Brian, and different brands and organizations to talk about everything from, the Wi-Fi Alliance to the CSA to other smart home creators, general content creators, like whoever. So if anyone has any suggestions for guests, please shoot them over. You guys know how to get in contact with me. So I'd love to know who else to get on here. Brian, you're obviously welcome anytime, whenever we can both make our schedules work.
When we got time, shoot. That's any time when there's time. Oh, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. We've been talking about this, I'm pretty sure, since like late last year, of trying to find time that both of us were free again to make this happen. And this is just how it goes. This is our lives. The last thing I'll just say about the rebrand is if everyone can take 2 seconds again, leave the podcast another review. Help us boost it. Please, 5-star rating, whatever podcast player you're using, Apple Podcast. I can't even think of all the other ones that are out there, but we're on all of the different, apps. So give us a good rating, help the podcast grow, hit more of an audience here as we push through this rebrand, and hopefully we don't lose anybody along the way. But thank you, everybody who listens and watches, for 300 episodes of this show. I'm just very grateful that we've gotten this far. Well, let's get to our first kind of topic. You talked about there for a second, Brian, Apple event. We're going to get to go hang out for a bit and see this new, whatever this Apple experience is going to be. There's been all sorts of stuff. My first thought, I was hoping experience meant something that was going to be more experiential, like the new version of Siri, or maybe like that smart home hub. Now that we're getting kind of closer, it seems like people are maybe, like Gruber was suggesting, maybe like a few days of press releases, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, for like iPhone 17e, MacBook, and whatever the third device was. I can't even think of what iPad number Air, 3
M4
was.
iPad Air. I think M4
yeah.
iPad Air maybe.
Something like that. Like hit a couple of these kind of basic entry level devices, then do an event or an experience on day 3 for everybody to get a closer look, try them out, take photos and videos, all that kind of stuff. If that's the case, that'll still be fun. I think this new MacBook is going to be crazy popular. I think it's going to be a huge deal for consumers and students and everyone like that. But it doesn't sound like it's going to be the smart home hub or Siri, which the 26.4 beta launch, which we'll talk about next. And there was no version of, new version of Siri in there. But I don't know. Any Apple experience event is always something to kind of get excited about. Like, there's always going to be little things that I think that are going to be pretty fun to check out.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that we can pull from this. I think Apple's going to have a massive year of product releases just as a whole. Whether you're talking about the smart home, whether you're talking about new M5s, we're talking about a new iPhone foldable launch on top of their regular phones, on top of their regular iPad lineup, on top like everything. They're pretty much doing every category, every refresh, and new product categories this year. Okay, so that's going to be really interesting. I think the big thing that, and you alluded to it, look, you can't feature any smart home product until you have the proper Apple Intelligence launch that you expect it to do. To me, that's what, based on reports and rumors, of course, nothing is official until it's official. We had hoped to basically see the Smart Home Hub last year, and it didn't happen primarily because Apple Intelligence, the primary way to communicate with this device, is still not ready. Then later on, we learned that towards the end of the year that they have signed a deal and a partnership with Google and Gemini, and I'm not exactly sure which LLM they're using, if it's the entire Gemini or maybe a part of it, but that takes time to integrate, right? There's been some kind of interesting, curious moves around the fringes in relationship to the fact that, that's weird. All of a sudden, there's a Apple Vision Pro YouTube app 2 years later, just around the time that we hear that there's a partnership between Google and Apple. I was like, okay, that's clearly, there's something connective going on between there. But without Apple Intelligence and without the new Siri being ready to roll, it makes no sense to show off whatever smart home gadgets they have in the works. And, based on reporting, we've heard that, like you said, it was supposed to, at least some of this new stuff, launch in 26.4, iOS 26.4. None of that happened, not even a single new Siri feature. And for people just to catch up to speed, we were expecting to see what they announced in 2024. So we're talking about personal context, being able to connect the dots of information between things like your messages and your calendar and knowing your flight schedule and emails. None of that has happened. All right, on-screen awareness, being able to see what's on your screen and pull the context from that. None of that has happened. In-app actions or in-app intents, essentially being able to talk with Siri instead of having to dive into an app. I could say, hey blank, turn, I don't know what's a good example, but how about like open up, this sounds really stupid, I'm going to make something up. Open up my refrigerator and make the coffee. Whereas maybe you had to go directly into an app to choose a specific action to do that, you could just vocalize that. That's a bad example, all right? But you get what I'm saying. All of that stuff, still 2026. We're 4 months away from WWDC 2026 when it was announced in 2024. None of that has happened. So I'm excited about Apple. I guess it's long overdue. I think they're about 10 years late to the smart home game when they should have gotten involved long ago. But I'm curious to see what they do, because from a security standpoint, I think Apple and privacy, they have the best reputation and the best consumer interest when it comes to that, and that matters when it comes to your smart home. And that's the only reason why I'm compelled to give them a chance, although I have like a mixed match of different things. So we'll see what happens at this event, but for smart home lovers right now, you still got to kind of hold on to your butts.
Yeah, I think so. I think part of what I really do feel like Apple's whole privacy thing has been such a important part of their identity for this reason. Like they've started doing this, like you said, 10 years ago or whatever, when they started really, really hammering that privacy note. And it's coming into play when we're talking about the Apple Intelligence stuff, and it's coming into play when we're talking about smart home. I mean, I did a video breaking down, there's the rumor that the next generation version of AirPods are going to have those infrared cameras, and then they're going to adopt Vision Pro gestures. So you won't have to squeeze or do anything to your earbuds. You can literally just flick and drag and do everything you could do kind of on Vision Pro, but using what's built into your AirPods. And I think that is amazing. But I still saw people concerned of I don't want to put cameras on my earbuds. And the only way for Apple to kind of tamp down that concern is just continuously to hit and ring that bell on privacy of why it is so important. We're seeing it on the smart home side a little bit with the adaptive temperature features for thermostats that can predict when you're going to go home. And it's just doing all that literal prediction stuff on your device and not being sent anywhere. And I think that is going to be very key to a lot of this stuff. And when we get into smart home and we're talking cameras and everything else in your home, Apple's got to be really on top of that privacy aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's where it is their biggest differentiator. And at the same time, it's arguably hurt them to be able to enter this Apple Intelligence market as aggressively as maybe other companies have, because they hold on and protect so much of our user data. So there has been a trade-off, right? And at the same time, I think if you ask most consumers, they arguably don't really care about Apple Intelligence until it shows them something that really can be useful to their core experience. And until they do that, right now it feels, I know it's going to get better, but it feels like a dud right now, quite honestly.
It does, and they get dogged on so much for it. But like Apple could have done what everyone else did, years ago if they wanted to, because they could have thrown everything up to the cloud, done nothing on device, and made most people happy, but at the sake of privacy. So they literally had to develop their own servers to design, to manage all that stuff privately. They literally open sourced it so people can go in and check out their code and guarantee that it is actually private and deleted and all that kind of stuff, while still doing the huge legwork of doing it so much on device locally without even having to throw stuff to the cloud. So I think it's pretty impressive, the stuff that they have done, but the results of it are very small.
Still TBD, right? Still to be determined. I think the biggest thing that is very clear to me is whether or not the general mainstream consumer cares about it yet. Apple completely missed on the AI movement. They were taken by surprise, right? They had to scramble to put together that presentation in 2024 to show the public, and maybe arguably more shareholders and investors, that, right, the word AI became something of do you have it in your portfolio in order for us to believe that you're ready for the future, right? And the word Apple Intelligence is also a bad descriptor for, right, artificial intelligence, just in general. Saying that word, there's so many different pockets of what it is that it's also bad. I think it's just a bad name, right? And people need to be able to kind of distinguish, what are we talking about? Are we talking about generative creation stuff? Are we talking about computer machine learning and algorithms that understand our data and make life better, instead of just saying artificial intelligence? Everyone's turned off by that, quite honestly. I know people in the tech world that are like, oh god, here we go again.
Do you get tired of it CES when every single company's like, our whatever has AI?
Yeah. And yeah, it's oh yeah, you mean it's what has always been done, but we're now calling it AI. Our cameras can see this. They did see other things 10 years ago, but now you're calling it AI, right? Because they just have to. So it's become this dumb industry buzzword, quite honestly. Not dumb, but this industry buzzword that doesn't necessarily make sense and apply. So bottom line, Apple was taken, really, they were not prepared for this, right? And now, by rushing it, they've actually created a larger backlash and a negative, feeling around it. And so it's really kind of kicked them in the butt right now. And until they can, quite honestly, until Apple's Intelligence can get on track, and until it can deliver some crazy, awesome, wearable glass experience, I don't think people are going to think too highly of it when you talk about the mainstream consumer. I had fun making a little photo gallery using Apple Intelligence, right? Saying pictures of me and Shauna in Tokyo. I'm like, that's cute, right? Is that Apple? Is that really that AI? No, it's
yeah.
So until they do something that wows people, and I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, it's going to take some time to kind of reverse the reputation of Apple Intelligence kind of sucks right now.
I think that it's definitely a big just public perception thing, because people are they're almost expecting a chatbot and really expecting it to be through the voice assistant. Well, Apple still toils away at kind of adding it in little smart places. That adaptive temperature, I think, is a good use of essentially AI, on device machine learning AI, to give you a useful feature instead of adding you holding flowers in a photo. I think that's more practical and more useful. But yeah, it's harder to kind of convey that. And that kind of takes us to our next topic, which is the 26.4 beta that did launch with no new version of Siri, but we did get one new Apple Intelligence feature, which I think is useful. It's called Playlist Playgrounds. So it's not smart home related, but you can use Apple Intelligence to generate a playlist based on you just describing it. So you can write a sentence or a few words, just describe this playlist that you want, and AI will kind of put this together for you. And honestly, it did a pretty good job. I don't have that crazy of a taste, so the playlist was I liked it. The few that I played around with, and I think that could be really useful to a lot of people who are you having a party or something, you want a certain vibe, and you can just put that in there and generate something. So I like that they're adding these little features, but like you said, it's not anything that's major and wowing, and people are expecting more of a chatbot situation.
Look, I think you just said something that stuck in my mind. You just said the word adaptive temperature. We don't need to say it's an AI feature. Just call it what it is. What happened to the days where we just call it a feature what it is because it's freaking cool, right?
Yeah.
It's not. Now it's like Apple Intelligence powers adaptive temperature. I'm like, oh my God, just call it adaptive temperature or something fun and cheeky. But so I hope that there is some level of a correction where people get so exhausted. I'm exhausted even thinking about it, of the terminology, that we start getting back to, like, let's just call a feature what a feature is, because guess what? Everything has AI in it. Everything.
Yeah. Well, let's move on, because our audience is also probably tired of hearing about AI stuff. And fortunately, there's actually a good handful of other things in 26.4. Not all that is smart home related, but we have a few snippets that I pulled out. So the first is on CarPlay. Apple TV looks like it's coming to CarPlay. Code has been uncovered that references Apple TV, and even a developer got this spun up in the simulator that shows like the Apple TV app, and you can pull up, your TV shows, watch it on your car's infotainment system. It's literally the Apple TV app, but in a CarPlay version. So I think that's pretty sweet. You of course have to have the car in park for that to work, and I'm curious, because I have not seen a confirmation either way, if this will or will not require automaker support like AirPlay does. Because right now, if you want to use AirPlay with CarPlay to cast videos, the automaker has to support it. And I'm hoping that as long as CarPlay can tell that you're in park, this should hopefully be supported, out of the gate here.
My assumption, again, we don't know this, like you said, 100% because we haven't seen it, is as long as they supported AirPlay, this Apple TV should work, right? Like, because that's just tossing content to your display.
But no one supports the AirPlay right now. That's the problem.
So I think that, and not only does no one really support it, look, Apple has a CarPlay issue where, yes, current install base that can support what it is today still exists, but this new CarPlay Ultra, this next generation of CarPlay Ultra, I think it's still only, at least officially, still in the Aston Martin. I don't know if any other car manufacturer has officially rolled it out yet. There's a bunch of manufacturers that say they will and say they are. They've been saying this for now over 2 years almost. It still hasn't happened. So I think that these car manufacturers, if you look at the trends of what's happening in the car space, and I won't linger on this too much so we can get back on the smart home stuff, but a lot of car manufacturers realized, much like when Apple took over with iTunes and dominated that industry, and the recording industry was like, wait, what? What just happened? Then you saw the video streamers take a page from that and say, wait, we don't want to do that. We all want our own platform. We're not going to give Apple. So that's why we have 10 or 15 different video streaming services so they can own their own platform, which is smart. And now the car manufacturers, after all these years of CarPlay being like, wait, Apple's collecting all the data and interaction that's happening on the car space, and we're not getting that because it's being given to CarPlay. No, we want to build our own systems. We want to know exactly where people are pointing and clicking and what they're doing. So we're going to own the car now. And CarPlay Ultra might be a familiar user interface that consumers have shown that they want it, right? I think it's somewhere crazy like 85% or something high like that says they want CarPlay. But the manufacturer's like, no, we're going to do it our own way. We saw this with Tesla. We saw this with Rivian. We've seen this with other platforms. And for the car manufacturers that do it right, they don't need CarPlay. I haven't missed a beat with it in my personal Rivian. I like the fact that I can get a lot of different tools and control that Rivian has built in, and it's up to these car manufacturers to make a system so good and so compelling that they don't need CarPlay. And what we're also now seeing is that, they're allowing, they're allowing Apple Music as an app to appear on their car platforms, but not CarPlay Ultra. So right, there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes where the future of CarPlay, although it's still here and solid in 2026, I wouldn't be surprised I know this is a long ways away, but in, let's say 2035, that CarPlay doesn't have the same staying power it had today. I wouldn't be surprised. And that's a problem.
We'll see.
Apple.
I mean, it is, and I mean, especially because when you do so many things, like when CarPlay can integrate with your widgets and your phone, like it's such a good experience. So Apple is definitely going to need to innovate with the existing version of CarPlay if they can't get them to adopt CarPlay Ultra, which maybe is why we did get those small tweaks. We got chatbot integration now, like AI agents can now be baked into CarPlay with 26.4. We have Apple TV coming to CarPlay with 26.4, and we got widgets in 26. So maybe Apple's going to keep adding these little pieces to the existing version of CarPlay to get it really sticky with consumers. But yeah, I swear automakers will have, I don't know how many engineers doing hardware, and then there's one little man or woman software coding those terrible interfaces. And yeah, a couple of them have tried, but it terrifies me. Like the likes of, I will never stop, dumping on GM for fully moving away from CarPlay and just talking about how they want to monetize the people in their cars. And that's just, to me, that is so awful. Like, I do not want to be like the fact that they're going to start trying to charge for like all those software features that would just be available in CarPlay because they want to charge you for features and then sell your data at the same time. I have choice words that would get us a higher rating on this podcast that I want to avoid. So,
well, look, it's an indication of there was a time, and there still is a time where CarPlay superseded the crappy software that was in cars, but times change, and car manufacturers are now like, wait, we're going to invest in software now, finally, so that we don't give that up. And so they are. And, whenever I get a rental car, I enjoy CarPlay. That's when I feel like, for me, it stands up. I'm like, what is going on here? Just pop in CarPlay. And I'm not even saying that there's no place. There's a huge space for CarPlay. I'm just saying the car manufacturers are slowly showing they don't want CarPlay in their cars, and that's really. We'll see how that trend. I forgot to bring up GM, and thank you for bringing that up. That's a huge thing that they're like, nah, we don't need it. I think BMW is doing the same. I feel like so. These are major car manufacturers that are turning their back on CarPlay now. So,
but GM has just been like the worst, and the fact that they're like openly talking bad about it and openly saying that they want to monetize that data is just, they got in trouble for selling that data. And just, okay, moving on, because I'll just keep going down that rabbit hole. A few other things. In 26.4, we have enhanced HLS video coming to the podcast app. This will hopefully one day impact Smart Home Insider. I'd love to have this ready to go day one, but I've been digging into this more, and it is going to be complicated. It looks like it's going to require a bunch of stuff. Like, there's only a few hosts that are going to support this at launch. Cost could rise as well because you're going to have to start paying for servers to host your videos, as well as, the rest of the podcast stuff. So I don't know how that's going to shake out with this podcast in particular. We're doing video. This is on YouTube, but I would love to be able to have this natively in the podcast app. So maybe when more places start to adopt it, but it'll be really cool just to switch between like the audio, the video version, text, whatever you want to do, all from Apple Podcast. So this is going to be really cool. This was a big deal, I think, for this 26.4 update.
Yeah, for the podcast community, huge. For content creators, huge. But like you said, there's a lot of hoops that we have to jump through to figure out where we can go to make this work. So I wanted to embrace it and take advantage of it, and hopefully will eventually.
Exactly. 26.4 for tvOS has a new toggle for continuous audio connection. And basically that sounds like Flat Panels HD mentioned on Twitter. They think it's going to help get rid of that popping issue that was happening with some Dolby Atmos receivers and with some Sonos devices. It just kind of depended on your audio mix between your TV and your receivers. Some people were having like this popping thing that would kind of kick on when they started listening. And this sounds like it would just put a continuous audio connection. It's just a toggle, and it's going to keep it persistent, and there will be no kind of popping as it kind of reconnects and resends out that signal again. So that'll be a nice fix for people using Apple TVs and everything. And this is just a mini tangent, Brian, because I want to know, are you into Star Wars stuff at all?
I'm a Star Wars baby, but why? What do you?
Did you see the new Mandalorian trailer that came out?
Of course I did.
Dude, I'm so excited to watch it on Vision Pro. Like, I'm going to go see it in theaters, but they're doing that IMAX cut of that. I want to see that on Vision Pro. Like, that's my space to go to for like these massive movies like that.
I think that where we haven't seen it yet because the investment has not been there yet. I don't know if we'll see something at this experience in New York, but I'm actually hoping Apple pays a lot of money, which they have, to work on exclusive immersive content with some of these studios, like an F1 immersive experience that maybe might be 5 or 10 minutes. Something like they have a deep relationship with Disney, an immersive experience that's a 5 or 10 minute narrative. I think we need to start seeing more of this stuff. Look, Vision Pro technologically is amazing. Price-wise, horrible. Weight-wise, horrible. I literally can't recommend it to any of my actual friends to actually drop $3,500 on a device like this. I genuinely love it, but it's just not there for the general consumer. But these immersive experiences, and I said it for my review, and I'm glad it's held the test of time, it's all about immersive. That is the sweet secret sauce that it has. And so I'm with you, right? Whether it's a big screen or an immersive experience, we just need as much of that content. And I don't know if you've had a chance to check out NBA games in immersive. It's freaking mind-boggling. It changes the way that you want to watch an NBA game. And so I encourage you to check that out. And it is free to do. So it's badass.
I mean, I'm big into a lot of sports, football, even with the Browns here. Like, I'm still big into the Guardians, Blue Jackets. I don't watch basketball, but I did watch like the immersive one. I'm like, yeah, this made me actually want to watch because it really did feel so freaking cool. Other than the fact that I was watching basketball. So it was like the one thing that made me want to watch an NBA game, I guess. So it's got that going for it. But yeah, I think the F1 stuff would be amazing. It is cool enough that I will say, like, I've had family members and friends ask to borrow it so they can watch immersive movies or like the 3D movies because it's that good. So like there's the draw, but like, yeah, they're all like, well, I can't spend $3,500. You have one. Can I borrow it? I'm like,
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, the best way to watch movies that I've seen other than in a theater.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm with you on that.
Sweet. Okay, let's talk about, there's possibly some new Apple home devices coming, like from Apple itself. And you did even a video very recently, it might have been like the day that we're recording this, that talked about kind of that larger story in AI, which we'll sidestep a little bit to talk about the smart home devices. But before we do, I got to take that super quick break to thank our sponsor for the episode. You guys know them. I gushed about them in the last like week or so. It is Shopify. There's so many benefits of it. I talk about it all the time of how easy it is to set up. Literally, you can have a website and a store running in an afternoon. You have the AI aspect that can help you write copy, remove backgrounds on images, and help you make your website look great and professional with no knowledge, know-how, anything, just to get it up and going. It also helps with so many problems that a lot of like entrepreneurs and business starters kind of are facing of like, I don't really know how to set up a web store. I don't know how to deal with like sales tax and what that is and shipping services, and how to save money on shipping and all these things. And fortunately, Shopify just takes care of all of that for you. And the best part about it is, unlike kind of like a lot of software that you might try, it's like you start it and then as you grow, you have to switch to a more professional software, and then you grow more, and then you're like, okay, I got to upgrade to something higher level. No, Shopify like takes care of that because they will literally be with you as a one-person shop out of your garage all the way up to a massive millions of dollar business. They can scale and grow with you, adding on new features, services, plugins, all sorts of stuff to help you reach your goal and help your business succeed. And it's crazy because the last time I did an ad spot, I was on vacation. We went into 2 stores, and both of those stores that I went into, as we were checking out, the clerks, the owners of the stores that were there literally told us like, oh yeah, without me prompting them, like, oh yeah, we use Shopify for this because of, and then they start going into it. The first guy was like, we save so much money. We started doing an online store. We started using Shopify actually for it. And they save us so much money on shipping and insurance and stuff and sending out our packages. It's been amazing. And I'm like, I know Shopify. They do the podcast. And then we go to a second store that's like a gifty store, and they're like, oh yeah, we sell like jelly cats and stuff, but there's so much fraud around it. It was a major problem. And fortunately, like Jellycat, literally, or not Jellycat, Shopify will monitor people putting in orders and then flag them if they're like likely spam, so that we don't get, frauded out of a whole bunch of money for people placing Jellycat orders. So it's just amazing to see Shopify out there in the community for these businesses to succeed and grow. Like, these are like physical stores that started selling online, and Shopify can do these things for them, manage inventory between their online and physical locations, and so much more. So if you guys are not convinced already, just please give it a try. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/HomeKit. Go to shopify.com/HomeKit. All lowercase. That's shopify.com/HomeKit. Okay, Brian, let's talk about this. Bloomberg Gurman, he put out an article talking about, essentially it was focused around Apple's AI wearables, but at the end of that article, this little tidbit, he threw this out that piqued my interest of, beyond wearables, Apple is developing a range of AI devices for the home. That lineup includes a smart display built around the company's upcoming Siri revamp, and a later version with a larger screen and robotic arm. The company is also working on an updated HomePod speaker and a compact indoor sensor for the home security and automation. So we obviously have heard about the display. We've heard about, that's supposed to be this year. We've heard about the fancier version that will rotate on a robotic arm that is a supposed 2027 launch. And then we'd heard about HomePod Mini. So this sounds like, again, a new version of the HomePod that could potentially have a screen, as well as that smart sensor. And I am like, it's such a vague reference, but what kind of sensor? What kind of sensor? Is it going to be presence sensing, temperature, humidity, but those are already built into HomePod? There's all sorts of things that could kind of expand here. And it just has me excited because it shows more of Apple's attention on AI and the home and the smart home in general. We've heard about cameras and doorbells, and now we're getting possibly even more devices. This is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think, dude, I don't even know if it was us when we talked a year ago or so. Maybe it was, but I think there had been a company or so. I think there's maybe a couple that have these like proximity sensors, these presence sensors that you're talking about. And instantly, to me, I'm like, if Apple puts this into their smart home portfolio, I mean, I feel like they should scoop someone up that has a presence sensor, or if they know exactly what they're doing, incorporate this, because this is where home automation turns into like Jedi level home automation, where if there's a presence sensor near this reading chair, that's near this reading light, near these shades, that sees me and knows that I'm lingering there for 5 or 10 seconds, or I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden it turns on that reading light, it closes those shades without me saying anything. That's really interesting. If there's a presence sensor in my kitchen that always knows I'm in there, that's what I want the lights on, okay, it automatically turns the light on. But then verbally, if I don't want those lights on, fine, I turn them off. But for it to kind of automatically know where you are and the context of some of these situations and be able to react to it organically in your home, that's badass. I think that's a level that people aren't familiar with, because really we haven't been able to connect the dots with all the platforms yet. That is truly possible and can happen. And if there's a company that could launch that to make it appealing to the consumer, Apple is absolutely one of them, right? We know there's presence sensors out there, but they're just like, I don't have a presence sensor that's tied into my Google, to my Amazon mishmash smart home. But if Apple could nail that, that's something intriguing to me.
I've always kind of thought that Apple would maybe snap up Aqara, just because of how reliable their stuff is. And I don't know. So first off, they are the ones that I think have been crushing with the presence sensors. They now have like 3 of them on the market, whereas you have like Eve, that I love, that still has just a basic motion sensor that I can't recommend at all anymore when presence sensors exist. They use the millimeter wave radar, and they know if you're in a room, even if you're not moving, versus the motion sensors that'll be like, oh, no one's in here, we must turn everything off. And it's like, to me, that's useless. Like, so yeah, Aqara is the way that they have been pushing it with presence sensors, with Matter adoption, and the speed and reliability of like their lights and their cameras and stuff is just next level. I'm kind of surprised that Apple hadn't scooped them up, and now they're the first ones to launch with adaptive temperature. They were the first ones to launch with the ultra wideband home key. yeah, it seemed like it could have been a natural partnership, but maybe it's just going to continue to be a tight partnership until Apple is developing its own, kind of tech here. I mean, they're going to be essentially competing with their own doorbell, their own cameras, whatever sensor this happens to be, as well as all the smart speakers that they're going to be launching.
I'm really glad you mentioned Aqara because, dude, I think they're showing at CES for the smart home was damn impressive. You think, oh, ultra wideband support for a door lock. What does that mean? Dude, it is so nice. It is so smooth. The interaction is like chef's kiss from what they talked about, from what they actually showed in execution. I mean, every doorbell or door lock should have that. They don't, and eventually they will, but Aqara is definitely doing things and taking advantage of those APIs that are key to the Apple ecosystem that people are kind of sleeping on, I'd say, and you hear about it, and then you're like, oh, who's going to do it? Aqara's the one that's doing it. So I think and for people that may not even be familiar, AQARA, just look at their portfolio, go to their website, and you're going to be like, damn, this is actually pretty cool. And I'm genuinely excited for that door lock. I have not purchased a door lock ever because I haven't felt that there was the right one that made me say that's the one I want. So we're talking about 7-8 years maybe that we've had smart door locks.
Yeah.
And finally, that Aqara ultra wideband door lock, I said that's the one. I knew that's the one. So, I take my time when I'm going to get some of these devices. I'll give a win, but not my door lock. So that's pretty amazing.
We're gonna round out the episode here in just a minute with talking about your smart home in particular, because I'm very curious at your side of all of that. Before we do, I added this in because the information just published this article. So Stephanie Palazzolo and Quiner Liu, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing either of those correctly, but they have a whole thing in there about the next generation or the first physical hardware product from OpenAI. And it sounds like, Johnny Ive's Love From is really taking a shot at Apple here. But apparently their first device is going to be a smart speaker, likely priced between $200 and $300, according to two people with knowledge of it. The speaker will have a camera enabling it to take in information about its users and the surroundings, such as items on a nearby table or conversations people are having in its vicinity. According to one of the people, it will also allow you to buy things from identifying them with a facial recognition feature similar to Apple's Face ID. This really sounds like Apple's kind of smart home hub display here, mixed with just all the OpenAI stuff. So Apple's literally getting a lot of competition here in the space, not just from the existing people like Aqara, but now from OpenAI and Johnny Ive at the same time. And technically with Matter, things are going to work kind of across the board. So this could be really interesting to see, especially how that will work with the smart home. Because obviously in that kind of blur from the information, it's more about like, oh, you can buy things, you can recall conversations, answer questions, all the AI-ness. But I'm curious at how that would work with smart home tech at the same time.
So this is a cool story. I mean, I'm glad you just dropped this on us because, like, I can do like a raw reaction. OpenAI is intriguing because, of course, it has Johnny Ive on it. Johnny AI. Oh my gosh, I almost said it. I did. So Johnny Ive is at the helm. Johnny Ive was literally the BFF of Steve Jobs. Johnny Ive, pretty much from what we can tell, did not agree with how Apple was making products or prioritizing products or doing things, and essentially defected, created his own design studio. But now his bromance has shifted from Steve Jobs to Sam Altman. I mean, these guys look like two peas in a pod. They put out a video that was all bromance that you're like, what am I watching here? But they were glowing about each other and talking about, we're building the next revolutionary device that no one is seeing coming. I don't think it's this smart speaker because all indications say they're working on some sort of a AI pin / pendant that is now being reportedly pushed out and delayed at least until February of 2027. So when someone talks about we're going to change the world of the device and then it gets delayed, it's like, okay, just like slow down. Let's just see the device before we get crazy about it. Like, one thing that I would say from an aspect of during the Steve Jobs era, the restraint was he would never say we're making a device that's changing the world. He would talk about it once he showed us the device and then let your brain figure out, oh, this is going to change the world. right? The iPhone, he said, it's a music player, it's a communicator, and what was the third thing? He said 3 things about it, and he repeated it 3 times, and all of a sudden the audience was like, the buzz. I was there when the announcement happened as a consumer, and the room started getting energy. He's like, no, it's it's connected to the internet. It's a communication device, and it's a music player. And people are like, oh shit, and then this, right? Everyone started getting crazy about it. Don't say that before we even see the device. I think that's just it's just bad form. It's like the hype train. But I think one of Apple's, how about this? In theory, right now, OpenAI could be a really compelling competitor to kick Apple in the butt to raise their level of game when it comes to consumer devices, and specifically in this AI generation of device, whatever that means to whoever, and how that catches on. They have to be a little like, ooh, we need to pick up our game. They've already done that with Meta. Meta has actually kind of kicked Apple in the ass a little bit and said, oh, no. The future is these lightweight tech enough glasses. And Apple's like pivoted a good amount to that. So we need to see more of this. And I think whatever OpenAI does, whether it's successful or not, whether it changes the world or not, everyone has to pay attention because it's Johnny Ive. And it is the most compelling and intriguing AI platform that's out there right now.
I agree. And obviously we're just so I'm so excited about smart home in general, like being able for all these things to kind of come together and for Apple to essentially have some real competition in this space. I mean, they've had competition, against the iPhone and everything, but they've like you talked about right at the beginning, it's kind of like iterative and been smaller steps because they're maintaining, they have too many people. They don't want to, piss anyone off and alienate anyone by changing stuff too much. Like we literally see like, oh, they moved the web browser search bar, I'm leaving. Like people got so up in arms over the Photos app.
I hated that personally.
Yeah, so like they have to be more cautious. And in the smart home space, I think it's still new. There's still so much that is happening here. It's great to see actual competition and Apple not being number one. They may be number one in privacy for the smart home, but they have to actually play a little bit of catch up here, and they're going to have some tough competition. So I'm excited. We're going to get hopefully get a lot of new smart home devices out of Apple in the next, 1 to 2 years maybe, but it's going to be an exciting time for smart home tech.
I mean, before we started this podcast and we referenced CES, to me, it's the year of the smart home, to be honest. Like in general, when you talk about the spaces that are innovating and have elevated to a point of I need to pay attention to this space. And look, products ebb and flow. Like we know the phone is mature. The iPhone is mature, right? You can't really do too much more. I'm actually kind of seeing the same thing in robot vacuums, where they're now all of a sudden now they've kind of become homogenous and figured out what features matter, who's doing what. I have this X, Y, and Z, suction power, side brush, flexible brush, mopping power, lifting up chassis. Like now the flagship models all are roughly about the same, okay? And so, but then there's some other cool stuff happening in that space. But when you look at the smart home as a whole, that is the area that, I'm seeing what Aqara is doing. I'm seeing what some of these robot vacuum manufacturers are doing. I'm not big on the pool cleaners because I don't have a pool, but I actually see the innovation that's happening in the pool cleaning space, all right? And then let's not talk about the future of what robotics could mean to the smart home down the road. So there's a lot of excitement in that space, and I think even from, smart cooking devices, all this stuff, the smart home really, to me, felt like the most exciting, energetic place at CES, and I think it's good that Apple is fine. I roll my eyes when I say it because Apple should have been doing this. Was low-hanging fruit for Apple, dude. This was low-hanging fruit they could have done years ago and didn't. And now I have a mishmash home system that works, that I enjoy, that I don't know how much I'm going to really change or what I'm going to incorporate into it with Apple entering in the game right now. They have to make something so compelling that says, okay, I'm going to all Apple and all Apple devices. That's pretty tough right now, to be honest.
Well, I think you have a perfect transition to round up this episode. I want to hear about your smart home and kind of where you stand. And to the audience, the reason I'm excited about this, because like a lot of people we have on the show are literally like smart home people. They work for smart home companies. They are smart home reporters like Jen Tui. They are, smart home content creators like Eric. So it's smart home people. Brian, what I love about you is you are tech. You are the tech person, and you're not just in that smart home vertical. So I know that you have a bit of a hodgepodge smart home, and you have that good kind of consumer side for it, because you're not just going Apple, you're not all in the smart home space. So you have like an idea of what's going on in there, and yet you're picking these devices that work in your home. So give us the rundown. What do you kind of look for in smart home tech, and what do you have in your home?
So I think, like many of us, I think the entry level, let's call it the gateway into the smart home, has to be smart home lights. I think that's really what gets you first. So I actually have a combination of Philips Hue lights, because that's where I started on. So there was kind of this legacy where I felt comfortable with it. Yes, you still have to use a Philips Hue bridge, but I have it in everything. Basically, my whole living room and the entry it's all connected with the kitchen is all Philips Hue smart lighted. It just is, and it made it easy because Amazon's Alexa platform was like, hey, come one, come all, any of your devices will work. So from a foundational standpoint, the living room, the kitchen, and I have different areas like the living room versus the table in the living room versus the kitchen versus the lights in the island. So that's all Philips. But also, when you talk about lights, I think Govee has really kind of taken my heart now when it comes to the smart light space, because of the unique applications they're doing, the different types of lights, the diversity they're doing, and the fact that you don't need a hub. But, right, it's really Govee is Matter compatible, but not HomeKit compatible or Apple Home compatible, right? That's technically. So I still talk to it through Amazon's platform, but I have outdoor lights, I have garage lights. It's a mishmash. It's kind of weird that your brain, because there has not been like a single solution and these things evolve, I literally have a combination lighting system in my house, depending on what.
Which is what it should be. You shouldn't get stuck tied into one brand's, because just right behind me is a Philips Hue gradient sign, and then the Eve flare as like the globe. But then I have a nano leaf light strip for a hair light above that I often now turn off because it's flickering. It causes like banding issues on my lights, so I can't use it depending on what camera I'm shooting with. But yeah, then of course I got Govee stuff outside. I've got switch spot lights for things, like all sorts of random stuff. So yeah, it should be that way, that you can use a hodgepodge of lighting, and Hue stuff is just the GOAT. Like, they're kind of expensive, but they're just fantastic.
The other thing is, I'm assuming, do you use use Amazon's I don't want to set people's things off. Their platform where you now, like, you say turn on my studio, but it's like 3 different lights from 3 different companies, and then they all turn on. Did you do something like that?
I mean, obviously I do everything through Apple Home, but I will say, like, it's time to film, and it'll like turn off my main can lights in the studio. It'll turn on the sign light, turn on the Eve, and then I have a smart switch on my large key light here at like the 45. So yeah, all of those get set with that one scene. And then same thing with like the other big scenes, like Good Night will like lock the front door if I don't have the auto lock on it. But we'll lock the front door, turn off all the lights, turn off the ice makers, set the lights outside, close shades, all of that stuff with just a single scene.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 studio places and I do the lighting. Okay, so let's say talk beyond lighting. I do have smart shades. I can't remember the name of the company because I actually had a friend who does like smart shades install them, but they're on the Tahoma platform. And then Tahoma is controlled by Amazon. But the reason why Amazon's platform still kind of connects all the dots is because I could really choose different devices from different platforms and create scenes essentially from a lot of different manufacturers that may not be supported by HomeKit at the time, right? And these specific blind, like, if I recall, maybe it's changed, but there weren't too many smart blind options for HomeKit. Like, there just weren't that many.
There's definitely a lot now, but it was bare for a while.
Yeah. So I do something fun. This is so nerdy. I can't believe I'm admitting. I've never told anyone this. But if I want to close all my shades, I say magic A word, initiate barn door protocol. This comes from Avengers Endgame, where Tony Stark closed all the defensive window shades. Oh, but it's so cool. It's so freaking badass to say that. And then I think I have like I can't remember now because I do it once in a while, but I don't do it all the time. But it's only to impress my nerdy friends. And then it's like open sesame, opens them all up. If I want to do that. But most of the time I just say open all the shades or open all the blinds. So I can't remember the name of the brand because they're a brand of shades that were from actually a projection screen company made them. This is during the time, this was maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when blind options just were not as robust. So that they were a projection screen company that made shades that were just as quiet, and basically a projection screen turned into shade. I can't remember the name. They're super slick, custom made to like fit and black out my living room because I got an OLED TV that got a blackout. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going off on that. Other smart stuff that I can't think of. Oh, then my camera system at home is all Google. It's Google Home. My thermostat is a Nest.
No, you still have a Nest?
Hold on. A car is coming in the fold, bro. Like I said, there's things I'm going to switch out. It's one of those things where you're so familiar with it, you just stick with it. Why am I going to mix it up? Dude, to be honest, the design on Nest is, woo! I love how it looks. That jewel, the Nest.
Sure, because they haven't changed it from the literal beginning before they decided to trash their own brand.
Yes, they did. They did do that. That is very unfortunate, but it still works. I agree with you. I can't look. There's things like that we in the Apple ecosystem just keep because we keep it, right? This is a pure thing of human nature guides more decisions than people think about in the tech space, right? So because it works, because I'm familiar with it, because I do have Google security cameras around my house, I know they're not like the best, quote unquote, but that's what I did back in the day when I had it set up. I don't want to replace all my cameras, bro.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
And they work more than good enough and still do cool stuff. So, yes, the Nest takeover or dissolving of Nest, essentially, and Googlefying it has been dog poo-poo. But from a fundamental level, it still works, and I still enjoy using it. And it works on my iPhone.
I like the ring. I just like the turning it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Come on. Tony Fidel, that's the iPod in a thermostat.
Yeah.
So, I freaking love it. You don't like the newest Nest that's like a big jewel. It looks so nice from across the room, and it kind of, I love it. I love it. Like the old
does
Nest was
look
so
nice, and I'm
me.
glad that they added matter to it. But like even my setup process when I had initially reviewed it, like I had major issues. I had to literally set it up from my Android phone and then add it to my account, and then then go over to the iPhone because it literally could not get set up like on iOS for some reason. So,
do you use any Google products, or actually no, they're not part of your smart home, right? Like maybe that's why. Because do you have any Google Home specific type smart home stuff, or you're really all Apple Home stuff?
Basically all Apple Home. I do have the Nest Home Hub smart display situation because it does work with Matter, and I want a smart display. Like I could not be more clear about this, Apple. Like I want a smart display. So yeah, I do have one of those that I think is nice. I've stayed away from the Amazon ecosystem mainly because of like initial early major security concerns, and then switching to privacy concerns. And then Apple started like, okay, well, this works. But yeah, at least most of your devices, other than maybe your shades, would work with Matter. Govee stuff is all good. Hue stuff is all good. So you could pretty easily start moving things, like get them all in the Home app. I'm just saying. And then you'd be ready day one when Apple's Smart Home Hub launches. Because I know you're going to try one. You're going to try it.
For sure.
Yeah, so at least push, because with Matter, what's great, right, is you can have those same things in those multiple ecosystems. So you can go into whatever, the Amazon app or the Google app, hit turn on pairing. It'll give you that code, add it right into HomeKit, right into Apple Home, and then you are good day one when that Smart Home Hub launches. I'm just saying.
Bro, so isn't it funny, like, right? People would assume, this is why I always find it funny. People assume that like everything I do is 100% Apple. It's just not, right? Like Apple is the core of my ecosystem when it comes to phone and laptop, okay? Like those type of devices. But part of me, to be honest with you, also likes being on different platforms only to be able to understand and experience and know like where they're not as good and where they are good. And that's why I'm really excited about Apple to finally get in the smart home so I can have a true centralized Apple smart home experience. And maybe that convinces me to do something drastic and go all Matter and go all Apple home devices. I just don't see it happening with my smart shades personally because they're just so amazing. They're so quiet too. But
I'm so curious at how that works. 'Cause there's going to be a way. I can promise you there's a way, but I don't know anything about that platform, that brand.
Tahoma,
in terms of
it was
yeah.
My friend basically like it was during the time where people were cobbling stuff together. It's not like that. Oh god, you're gonna have to remind me. There was someone who basically made like a third-party hub to talk to HomeKit devices. Do you remember what the name of it is? A lot of Apple people will say, "Hey, get this third-party hub and hack it." Essentially,
I mean, there was one for. I mean, there's been a bunch for different things, but I mean, there's even one that they recently shut down. That Starling, right? That did it for all of the Google products. You could literally add all of your Google cameras, your Nest thermostat, everything directly into Apple Home. Support HomeKit Secure Video without having to pay any additional cloud storage fees to Google because you already have iCloud Plus. I'm just saying.
They shut that down. They cut it off. Huh?
Yeah, they
cut that off.
Yeah, they said there wasn't a use as much anymore with Matter and running a hardware startup. So yeah, Starlink shut down, but it did it. It worked.
That's what I'm saying. Like for 10 years, even to this day, my home ecosystem is still cobbled together. I know Andrew's rolling his eyes. He's like, Brian, it doesn't have to be that way, Brian. Just invest in a few different things, and it can all be Apple Home, and maybe it will.
Oh my gosh, Brian. I looked it up. Tahoma is from Somfy, which also supports Apple Home now.
Well, let's see if it works, bro. I better check. It didn't work 6 years ago.
I'm looking. They have I googled Tahoma shade to see what came up. There is a Tahoma switch, which I don't know how this integrates in,
like
but
it's a wall switch.
Nope, I don't know why it's not a wall switch, but it's a little box. It's a little it like sits on your counter, and it's a little ovally box, and there's buttons on it that you can press to open and close your shades. So it's still like a physical switch, I guess, to control them, but it also integrates natively into literally every ecosystem. They're all mentioned: Google, Phil2, Apple Home, Amazon. Brilliant, smart things, all of it.
Okay, so. Thank you for doing a lot of homework that I don't have the time or brain space. It's like, right? Let me go back to human nature really quickly. We only have so much bandwidth. Like Andrew knows, I just had my first baby girl with my wife a month ago. So think about before that and all the scrambling that I didn't take time to even see if Somfy ever made anything compatible with Apple Home because I'm like, it just works. All right. Now, I never looked at it because I didn't have time. It just worked. So you, my friend, are really guiding me. You are my guiding light. So when we're done with this, I'm going to find out what that switch is because that's kind of amazing. But here's the thing, Andrew. Will it allow me to say initiate barn door protocol?
It absolutely.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know.
You can tie whatever keyword you want through any assistant you want. You'll have support for it.
Yeah, man. So anyways, that took a long time, but that is, if people are listening, that is my hodgepodge of smart homes. And to be added will be the Aqara. Is it the U400 lock? Is that what it's called? I can't remember the exact letter. Yeah, yep. That's the model. That I'm definitely getting that for my home. I'm 100%. I'm so excited about that.
Maybe that's going to be your gateway. You're going to get the U400, and then you're going to get the W200 thermostat to kick off that Nest because it'll integrate with the U400 lock. So you could literally unlock it from there directly, and it's going to support the adaptive temperature. So like maybe that's going to be the one to dethrone your Nest.
I like that the thermostat shows you the camera feed of who's at your door, but I don't think I'd ever use that because I'm not going to be close. I'm not going to walk up to the thermostat. You know what I'm saying? It's quite honestly, it needs to show up on your phone or your Apple Watch so you can just like do it, right? That it's a feature. Don't get me wrong, but that's not going to sell me on the thermostat. Like the adaptive stuff, more likely is going to sell me on that thermostat, right?
I think so. Yeah. Okay, Brian, we're at an hour here. I know you and I can just keep talking forever, but I think we'll have to punt the rest of our conversations for another week or so. And I'll see you out in New York at Apple's Experience. Congratulations, obviously, on the baby. I know we talked about it before the show. I should also say, like, thank you so much to like your and I partners for like watching the kids while we're able to go and do this stuff, because like CES is like a whole thing. And then you just had a little one, you're going out to the Apple thing. Our little one is almost 8 months old now, and we got a toddler at the same time. So yeah, I know it's always a handful for everything that they are able to manage for us while we're running around and doing all these crazy lucky experiences at the same time. So yeah.
It is crazy. Also, congratulations to 300 episodes coming up, bro. That's an accomplishment in itself. That is amazing, my friend. It's amazing. Thank you.
Let's hope that we have many, many more. So
300 more.
That's a good reminder for everybody. Look out for next week's episode, Smart Home Insider. Another special guest for that one that should be good. And I don't want to say it until I make sure that they don't punt their announcement, because they like to do that. So we'll see, but it should be another good episode next week. Thank you, Brian, for hanging out today. Everybody go check out his YouTube channel, your podcast, anything else you want to plug while you're here?
No, I mean, yeah, Brian Tong is where you can find me on different platforms, and my podcast is Apple Bits XL. Just look up like Apple Bits and with a Z, and that's where we talk about all things really Apple, and then how other, the tech world as a whole is connected that way. It's just fun talk, all the nerdy stuff we love talking about. So yeah, you can check me out there.
Perfect. Thank you, man. You guys can watch the video version of this podcast over youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Yes, keeping the same URL, at least for the moment. Please, please, please give the podcast a rating on your favorite podcast player of choice. 5, 10, 100 stars if you can. Go find it. Give it that rating. Otherwise, I'll see you guys all in the next episode.